Welcome back to Law News Network, everyone. I'm Jesse Weber. Thanks for joining us. So again, we did lose our feed in the Frank Bybee case, but hopefully we'll have it restored soon. But no worries, because we have so much to analyze in this case before we go back into the closing arguments in this case. And to help me talk about this Frank Bybee saga, this bizarre case, I'm here with criminal defense attorney Joyce Kendrick. Joyce, I'm sorry to interrupt you before. We were getting into it a little bit, but it's good to see you.
Oh, good to see you.
So as we were talking about, my issue with this case, and I think a lot of people's issue with it, is you have an older woman, she's 80 years old, even if she suffers from depression, even if she is suicidal, and even if she has been delusional at times, that doesn't necessarily take away from what she's saying. It doesn't necessarily make her a liar, because how many times have we seen in this case people not believing her and then it turned out to be true? Am I right?
That's true to a certain extent. However, I do think it does go to her perception of things. And so while she may not be lying, her ability to perceive and see things as they are happening and the way she reports them could be influenced by the fact that she can be delusional at times.
So perception, would you say the idea of her attack, Frank Bybee's attack on her, might be over-exaggerated? Was she really fighting him off for a long period of time?
Exactly.
What do you think about that?
I think that could be, that absolutely weighs into that. Like, I mean, how long was it really? Was it really an attack, as she classifies it, or was there something else going on?
Now, we're listening to the prosecution's closing arguments. Why don't they just say, they could have one sentence, we tracked his emails to his computer. Isn't that a whole closed case? The fact that the emails, the suicidal notes that she apparently sent were actually sent from his home computer, his home network. Isn't that enough of a slam dunk case for the prosecution?
Well, I certainly think it hurts the defense. I don't know if it's a slam dunk. They still have to cross all their dots, all their T's and dot all their I's. They still have to, make sure that they, meet every single element.
Joyce, when I was listening to that testimony, it was a computer forensic expert. I'm not going to lie to you, and I think most people would say it was a little dry. He was talking about IP addresses. I said, where is this going? And then all of a sudden, he was able to track the fact that these emails that were sent from her email account, he logged into her account. It's possible that he logged into her account because the emails were actually sent from the IP address associated with the modem in his house. When we all heard that, we thought that was a boom. Now, the defense said, well, wait a second. Isn't it possible that the victim in this case could easily have written these emails, put them in drafts, didn't send them, he logged into her account and sent them? So in other words, she drafted them. She had every plan to send these suicidal emails to her doctor, to people she knew. But maybe she drafted them and it's not like he composed the email. Is that a significant difference for the jury?
I don't know. I think that just the fact that he sent them still is going to be a troubling fact for the defense. If she drafted them, that doesn't mean she intended to do it. She just may have been, writing in one of her states of depression. She was, putting down her thoughts, but that doesn't mean she was actually going to do it. The fact that he then is sending them to make it look like this is what really happened in this incident that's a whole nother matter.
As the prosecution said, he tried to do it to discredit her and then exploit her. This is one of the things that he's charged with, exploitation of the elderly. Remember, he's charged with 18 felonies, including computer fraud, burglary, kidnapping, theft, exploitation of the elderly, and of course the attempted murder charge. Do you see a situation where he might be convicted of some charges but not others?
Oh yeah, I definitely do. That can always happen because they have to meet the elements of every single charge. So if there's some that maybe the jury has some doubts on, they'll say, okay, fine, we're not going to convict him of that, but we'll convict him of those. Does it matter in the end when he's sentenced? Probably not.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I think the attempted murder charge might be a bit flimsy. I mean, we're talking about he could be sentenced to life for that attempted murder charge. But I look at the other things, we have more concrete proof of it. We have concrete proof of him sending emails, hacking into accounts, receiving checks. I think when you have that physical evidence, the fact that he was manipulating her accounts, manipulating her email address, it's more of a slam dunk in that way than you see an attempted murder charge where there's questions about, was she actually injured? Was she not? What was the level of it? What was her perception of it? So would you be surprised to see the attempted murder charge? He's going to be acquitted of that?
No, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all. The other thing is, I still don't understand the motive for why he would try to kill her.
Well, I think the motive is that she was going to, the idea was that he tried to exploit her for money, to get into her life, write himself checks, sold her dog at one point. When she started complaining about him and she started telling people about what he was up to, I think that's when he started to formulate this plot. Okay, first I'm going to try to discredit her. In the eyes of anybody who's listening, she's a crazy old woman, not going to listen. When that didn't work and people were starting to hear a little bit more, then he tried to Baker Act her, tried to send her to a mental institution and put her there. When that didn't work and she kept being sent back, then I'm going to kill her. That's the theory that's put off by the prosecution. Will the jury believe it?
Yeah, but
I don't know.
You think that's a little bit extreme that he would kill her? It's
Put it this way, this whole case is extreme. This whole case makes absolutely no sense.
It makes no sense.
You know, I'm looking at it and I don't even know what to make of it. Tell you this much, I haven't heard a case like this, but I will tell you this much. This is a serious problem in society. People taking advantage of older people. Whether I'm not talking about him, whether he's guilty or not. Right. This is a serious issue. And there's a reason, and I'm happy to see in this sense that we're taking a serious note on this, that it was brought to trial because a lot of people, there's a bias against elderly people, that no one cares about them anymore. But this is seeing the light of day. I think there's an importance in that.
Yes, I mean, this is a little extreme as to not caring about elderly people, though. It doesn't make sense to me why he would try to kill her. The fact that she already told on him and he knows that people are on his trail, it doesn't make sense that he would then do that because who's going to be the first suspect? You. Yeah. So that's where
I think he might have been trying to make it look like it was an accident or it was a suicide. Because
he had the car wreck
right.
and that kind of thing.
I think that was his advantage, is you had a woman, and I think this is the interesting part of this case. She's suicidal. People have admitted to the fact that she's suicidal. Her own doctor said she's been suicidal. Just because someone's suicidal, and I'll talk about her neighbor in a minute who said that this woman was suicidal for the past 20 years, doesn't necessarily mean someone's lying when they impersonate you and saying that you're suicidal. In other words, just because someone's suicidal doesn't mean they're necessarily going to kill themselves, and doesn't necessarily mean that someone's imitating them and saying they're suicidal. You know what I mean? Yes, she was suicidal, and that gave him an avenue to exploit, but that doesn't necessarily mean she was trying to kill herself in reality.
But on the other hand, it also doesn't mean that she wasn't suicidal. Like,
right.
You know, it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he could have used that as an opportunity to make it look like she tried to kill herself, but there also is the possibility that she really and truly was suicidal on that day.
Well, let's talk about her neighbor, Marianne Dombrow, who we were listening to. She said this is a nasty woman. She's a piece of work. She's been trying to kill herself for 20 years. She even said she thought, this is Dombrow talking about the victim in this case, she said she thought Frank Bybee was the best thing since ice cream. Those were her exact words. So again, you're right. The jury has to see whether or not this victim is reliable, whether or not she's telling the truth, because it could be a delusion. This could all be made up.
And what if she was so upset because she knew that she had gotten him in trouble and that he wasn't going to be in her life anymore, then now she becomes depressed and is suicidal.
I know. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. What the prosecution was trying to do, and Joyce, speak a little bit more about this. They were trying to say, even if you don't believe the victim in this case, Marcia Saul, here's all the independent knowledge. This is everything we can get that she didn't know about, that she didn't testify to. As an attorney, as a trial attorney, how important is that to verify facts, evidence, testimony that's outside the scope of the testimony from a victim?
I think in this case it's very important, especially when you have the added fact that she has this history of being delusional and she has a mental health history. So now where their witness is not necessarily credible in some respects, it's important that they be able to link it to things that, like you said, are independent of what she may have said.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, or at least what the prosecution's bringing up, the law enforcement. Okay, the law enforcement that testified, the people that know Frank Bybee, the people that worked with Frank Bybee, they are alleging there's a bias there, that they spoke to him about, well, first they think there's a bias that what they testify to might not necessarily be accurate because they're trying to protect Bybee. But I tell you what, Joyce, we're going to get back to that question because I think we have our live feed right now in the Frank Bybee case, so take a look.